Hey everyone, it's Val. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you my current Stamina Arcanist build for update 50. This is the build I've been using for solo content, veteran dungeons, and it's also based on the setup I used to achieve over 140k DPS on the 21 million health trial dummy. So one thing I always want to point out before we begin is that there isn't just one best build in ESO. Your gear should always match the content you're doing. My solo build is different from my Parse build because surviving mechanics and maximizing dummy DPS are two completely different goals. So today I'll show you both setups, explain why I use each one, and hopefully help you understand the thought process behind the build instead of just copying a list of gear. So for the race, I am a Dark Elf Arcanist. So Dark Elves receive bonuses to both maximum stamina and maximum magicka, along with additional weapon and spell damage. Even though this build puts all 64 attribute points into stamina, Arcanist still casts several magic abilities. Having a larger magicka pool makes sustain much more comfortable during longer fights, while the weapon and spell damage bonus increases all of your offensive abilities. If you don't want to play Dark Elf, I'd also recommend Khajiit for higher critical damage, Orc for raw weapon damage and survivability, Wood Elf for sustain and penetration, or High Elf if you like switching between stamina and magicka builds. All 64 attribute points, like we said, are going into stamina. And for my Mundus Stone, I'm using the Thief. This build relies heavily on landing critical hits, so increasing my critical chance benefits nearly every part of my setup, especially my gear choices. So for solo and veteran dungeon content, I am using the Realigned monster set. This monster set drops from Veteran Crypt of Hearts 2. Whenever you deal critical damage, you have a chance to summon a Lich Crystal, and after 2 seconds it explodes and deals magic damage to nearby enemies. This scales with whichever is higher your weapon's damage or spell damage. Because Arcanists constantly deal direct damage through skills like Cephaliarch's Flail and Pragmatic Fate Carver, this set procs very consistently and adds a surprising amount of passive damage without changing your rotation. The next set is the Spattering Disjunction. This is the Arcanist class set obtained through the Infinite Archive. What I really like about this set is how naturally it fits the class, obviously. Whenever I deal damage with an Arcanist ability, it applies 2 random status effects, generates 1 crux, and increases my status effect damage. Since I'm running 2 charged daggers, so one is with poison damage and the other one is flame damage, I'm applying status effects constantly. That means I'm actually taking full advantage of everything this set offers instead of using only parts of its bonuses. For this build, I'm wearing this jack, the belt, an amulet, and 2 rings. Then the next set is the Perfected Slivers of the Null Arca. This set drops from Veteran Lucent Citadel. This set rewards you for landing critical hits. As you build critical damage, you generate sliver stacks. Once you reach 3 stacks, they combine into a crystal that launches at your target for a large burst of physical damage. Since I'm already using the Thief Mundus and focusing heavily on critical chance, this effect activates very consistently throughout longer boss fights. I'm using 5 pieces of this set, including both my front bar daggers. For armor traits and enchantments, all of my armor pieces are divine with maximum stamina glyphs. So I'm using a combination of medium and light armor to balance damage, penetration, and sustain. My jewelry is all bloodthirsty with multi-effect glyphs, giving me additional weapon damage, spell damage, and stamina recovery. On my front bar, like I previously said, I'm using 2 charged daggers. One has the flame enchantment on my off weapon, and my main weapon instead has the poison one. The charge trait increases my chances of applying status effects, which works perfectly with Spattered Disjunction. On my back bar, I'm using the Maelstrom Greatsword infused with a weapon and spell damage enchantment. Stampede keeps that enchantment active almost constantly, giving me excellent uptime on the additional damage. Now let's talk about skills. On the front bar, I'm using Quick Cloak, Barbed Trap, Cephaliarch Flail, Pragmatic Fate Carver, and Resolving Vigor, and as my ultimate, Flawless Dawnbreaker. I prefer Pragmatic Fate Carver over Exhausting Fate Carver because I value the damage shield it provides. When you're learning mechanics, pushing solo arenas, or running veteran dungeons, that extra survivability can save your life without sacrificing the core identity of the build. Let's take a look at the back bar. We have Inspired Scholarship, Camouflage Hunter, Stampede, Fulminating Rune, Reconstructive Domain, and as an ultimate, the Languid Eye. This bar is focused on maintaining buffs, applying additional damage over time effects, and keeping me alive during difficult encounters. Now, let's talk about class mastery. So one of the biggest additions in Update 50 is the class mastery system. For my everyday build, I currently use Abyssal, Emergence, and Fate Realigned. Abyssal Emergence lets me begin a powerful burst window after using my Arcanist ultimate by immediately giving me all 3 Crux and a large weapon and spell damage bonus. Fate Realigned keeps my rotation flowing smoothly throughout longer fights by regularly granting maximum Crux and an additional weapon and spell damage buff, making the entire build feel much more consistent. If I'm focusing purely on parsing, I swap Fate Realign for Unbound Potential. Since the goal of a parse is to produce the highest damage possible under ideal conditions, Unbound Potential provides more raw offensive value than Fate Realign. Another class mastery worth mentioning is Ink-Scribe's Verve. This passive generates Crux and grants major force after enough healing or overhealing has occurred. Because overhealing counts, an organized trial group can trigger this passive surprisingly often through constant healing, making it a very interesting option depending on your group composition. Now let's talk about champion points. So for champion points in the blue, the warfare tree, I am using Biting Aura, Exploiter, Wrathful Strikes, and Master at Arms. The fitness tree, Boundless Vitality, Fortified, Rejuvenation, and Celerity. This combo gives me a great balance between damage, survivability, and sustain. Passives. I always recommend unlocking every passive from the Arcanist, such as for the Herald of the Tome and Curative Rune Forms, because those are the ones that are actually using. Class Mastery as well, of course. Weapon, we have two-handed passives and dual-wield passives. Armor, we said we're using both light armor and medium armor. For guild, we will unlock the passive for Fighters Guild because we're using some of their skills. And Undaunted passives. Of course, all of the racial passives. And in the crafting section for alchemy, you want to make sure you unlock medicinal use, which makes your pots last 30% longer when you use them. Even if you're not using every skill line today, having those passive unlocked gives you much more flexibility as your build evolves. Now let's talk about parsing. This is the best parse I've had on my Stamina Arcanist. Of course, when I parse, I swap a few things, such as I've used the Highland Sentinel daggers, two of them, one Nearhound with flame damage and one charged with poison damage. The Maelstrom Greatsword, Huntsman War Mask, which is a very strong mythic, Slime Craw Shoulders, the Perfected Slivers of the No Arca set, and the jewelry pieces seal a Highland Sentinel. Everything else stays the same with Divine's Armor, maximum stamina glyphs, bloodthirsty jewelry, and multi-effect enchantments. The reason I use Highland Sentinel for parsing is because trial dummies let you stand still for long periods of time. Since Fate Carver is already a stationary channel, Highland Sentinel reaches its maximum potential much more easily than it would in real dungeon encounters where you're constantly moving. For my parse, I also changed my class Masteries to Abyssal Emergence, which is the one that I'm already running, and Unbound Potential. This combination focuses purely on maximizing damage under the ideal conditions. It is important, of course, to remember that this setup is designed specifically for the trial dummy. My solo and dungeon build is much more practical for everyday gameplay. Hopefully this guide helps you understand not just what I'm using, but why I'm using it. ESO is all about adapting your build to the content you're running. Do not be afraid to experiment, try different combinations, and make adjustments based on your own playstyle. If you have any questions about the build or if you'd like to see another class guide, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the guide, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.